Today is the 21st day of the month of Cheshvan. We are in the middle of chapter 15, discussing the laws of Kaddish and Minyan. Today we'll be completing the chapter, going from paragraph 7 through paragraph 13. Paragraph 7. As we have discussed, in order for the Chazan or anyone to be able to say Kaddish, you need a Minyan, 10 Jewish males, aged 13 and older. Now let's say the Chazan finished his repetition of the Shemona Esrei, and he's not going to say the Kaddish following that. But there's still some people who are middle of Shemona Esrei. They're still middle of Amidah. Do they count as part of the Minyan? They can't respond to Kaddish because when you're middle of Amidah, you're not allowed to respond to anything. So is that considered a Minyan or not? So the rule is you can have up to 4 people who are there, but they're in the middle of Shemona Esrei. So you have 10 total. 4 are still davening. They're still praying the Shemona Esrei, the Amidah, the silent devotion. We're talking one-on-one to God. So they're not allowed to interrupt that to respond to Kaddish. But up to 4, as long as you have 6 other people who are not in Shemona Esrei, including the Chazan, the leader, including the person saying Kaddish, you have 6 others, then you can count that as a Minyan. If you only have 5 people, if there are 5 people who finish their Shemona Esrei and 5 people who are still in the middle of Shemona Esrei, then that would not count as a Minyan. You need at least 6 who are completed and are able to answer. If somebody's in the room but they are sleeping, they cannot count as part of the Minyan. You have to wake them up if you need them for the Minyan. Paragraph 8. On page 82 in the article Siddur, then towards the bottom over there, we have the Kaddish following the Shtabach paragraph of Pesukei de Zimra. That Kaddish is a Chatzi Kaddish, a half Kaddish. And it is said by the Chazan, the one who is leading the prayers. Once he finishes that Chatzi Kaddish, he then says a line called Baruch Hu, and for that line as well, you need a Minyan. So if there's no Minyan, you can't do Kaddish, and you can't do the line of Baruch Hu. Paragraph 9. Towards the bottom of page number 86 in the article Siddur, we're in the middle of the section of the blessings that precede the Shema. So on the bottom of page 86, there's something that's called Kedusha. There's bold words. We say Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzivakos, Meluch Chol Haaretz Kevado. Holy, holy, holy is God, Hashem, God, massive legions. The whole world is filled with His glory. So for that line and the next line on the next page, on the top of page 88, also bold words over there, it's best to say that with a Minyan. However, it's not required. It's preferable, but not required. So if you have a Minyan, great. If you don't have a Minyan, you could say it by yourself. These couple lines are called Kedusha, not to be confused with what we've been talking about until now, Kaddish. There is a Kedusha in the Chazan's repetition of the Shemona Esrei, and for that you need 10, just like the rest of the repetition of the Shemona Esrei. Paragraph 10. Let's say you have a Minyan for the services, for the prayers, but in the middle, the 10th person leaves, walks out of the room. So now do you have to all of a sudden stop the things that require a Minyan, or do you say that no, since we started with a Minyan, we could finish off even those things that need a Minyan? So it depends on what we're talking about. But before we get to that, if 5 people walked out of the room, so now you only have 5 people left, then you cannot do anything that requires a Minyan, no matter how many people were there when the prayer began. But let's say anywhere between 1 to 4 people left. So you still have 6 people left. So if the Chazan had previously began the repetition of the Shemona Esrei, Chazar Sashatz, with a Minyan, then even though now 1 to 4 people left, he still could finish off Chazar Sashatz, he could finish off the repetition. He could say the Kedusha that I mentioned previously in the middle of that repetition. And not only that, he could say that if it's the morning services, he could say the half Kaddish after he finishes the repetition. And he can even say the Kaddish Shalem, the Kaddish Teskabel that he says after the paragraph called Uval Tzion. We do not say the paragraphs, the Kaddishes which are after Aleinu at the end of the service. The reason why you could say those Kaddishes I mentioned is because they're attached to the repetition of the Shemona Esrei. And therefore, once it began with a Minyan, it could be concluded even if there's no Minyan here right now. The same is true of Torah reading. Let's say you start Torah reading requires a Minyan. You start Torah reading in the middle, guy number 10 walks out, or even guy number 10, 9, 8, and 7. You still have 6 people left. You could finish off the Torah reading without a problem, and not only that, you could even see the Kaddish after the Torah reading. If it was on Shabbos, then you shouldn't. There's the Shabbos, we add on an extra aliyah called maftir, so you should not add on that aliyah. And also the Haftorah, which is a section from the prophets that we read after you finish the Torah reading on Shabbos morning. The Haftorah, we read the Haftorah, but we don't see the blessings in the Haftorah. But the Torah reading itself, along with a Kaddish following the Torah reading, that can be done as long as you have 6 people left. Now let's be clear, if there is a minyan, if there are exactly 10 people in shul, no one is supposed to be leaving. They're not allowed to leave. All this talking about if somebody did the wrong thing and left. But if there's 10 people, if there's exactly 10 people, it's really important that you stay, and we shouldn't have to end up in those scenarios where we end up saying Kaddish, even though you're allowed to, but that you're saying Kaddish or these other things without 10 men there. Paragraph 11. It's important that the chazan be somebody, the chazan, the leader of the prayers, be somebody that's fit for such a position. He's representing the community, the congregation, and facing God. So he's got to be fit for that. And there are qualities which are preferred. The Kaddish and Minyan mentions someone that even when they were younger, their entire life, they always had a good reputation, someone who's humble, someone who's obviously the congregation has to approve of them, has to accept them, someone who has a nice voice, someone who's a bit of a Torah scholar, is familiar with the 5 books of the Torah, with the prophets, with the Ksuvim, the writings. Obviously, somebody that's fluent in the prayers that he's going to be reciting. All these things are important. Ultimately, to find somebody who's of that caliber and is always available is not so common. So ultimately, we should just make sure that whoever's the chazan, whoever's leading the prayers, is somebody that is familiar with the prayers, they're relatively fluent in it, and they know how to do it. Paragraph 12. The most important thing, or at least another very important thing, is it's got to be somebody that the community is happy with. If someone wants to lead services and for whatever reason the community does not want him to lead services, and he's a strong guy and he strong arms his way into the position of chazan, then that's not appropriate. And not only that, we're not supposed to say amen to his blessings, to his kaddish, etc. On some level, he's considered a thief. He stole this position of being a chazan. Paragraph 13. The Kaddish and Minyan says over here that a chazan, the leader of the one who's leading the services, should be somebody who is old enough, or at least has physically mature enough that they're able to grow a full beard. However, he says that's for like a permanent chazan. For a chazan who's one-off, then it could be anybody who's 13 years old. 13 years and older, they could be a chazan for one-off time. Practically speaking, most synagogues will allow anybody who's 13 or older to be the chazan. But in some Hasidic shuls, then they'll have different rules about how old they have to be, or they have to be married or not. The shul I grew up in, it was a Hasidic shul. Once you were 13, you could be a chazan during the week. But on Shabbos, to be chazan Shabbos morning, and for Saturday morning services, for that you only could be the chazan if you were married. As a matter of fact, we only got aliyah. You can only get an aliyah on the Torah. You can only be called up to make a blessing on the Torah during Torah reading on a Shabbos morning if you're married. So the 2 times that my entire life that I got an aliyah on Shabbos morning in the shul I grew up in, at least in other shuls I got it, but in the shul I grew up in, the only 2 times I got an aliyah before I was married was, number 1, the Shabbos of my bar mitzvah, number 2, the Shabbos of my ufruf, the Shabbos before I got married. Then the groom, the bridegroom, is called up and makes an aliyah, makes a blessing on the Torah. There's a big celebration over there. Those are the only 2 times I ever got an aliyah in my shul on Shabbos morning until I was married, because it was a Hasidic shul. This concludes today's episode. Have a wonderful day and see you on the next episode.